Okay, before we begin Perek Tes in Sefer Shmuel Aleph, there's just a little piece I wanted to go through from the Musar Hanavim. Just kind of summarizes our discussion of Jewish people wanting a king before we get into Shul HaMelech today. And the Sefer Musar Hanavim, you'll notice I checked off on the right-hand page on 324. Above the line, it brings you Gemara in Sanhedrin, and then we're going to look at one of the commentaries below. And Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayomer Zeh Yeh Mishpat HaMelech. So he brings down a Gemara in Sanhedrin. It's a three-way argument here. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, Kol HaOmer B'Parshas Melech, whatever was discussed that Shmuel Hanavi said regarding the Parsha, the king, what a king will do. He will take your daughters, he will take your sons, he will take your property. Seems like he's doing a lot of things that are not going to be so beneficial for the Jews. So, mutarbo, he's allowed to do it. It's within the purview of the mitzvahs of a king. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, lo nemer parsha zu ela kedei la'ayim aleim. This parsha was only said to scare the Jews. Shenemar, it says, Som tasim alecha melech, you should place a king upon you. The commentaries say, he says, Shetehei mas alecha, his fear should be upon you. So if he's able to do these things, this will cause fear upon the Jews, and we'll see in a minute, but not necessarily that he's allowed to do it. But we want people to be afraid of a king, knowing that he could do it if he wanted to do this. V'chein haya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and so did Rabbi Yehuda say. Similarly, Gimel mitzvahs nistavu Yisrael b'chnisas l'eretz. There are three mitzvahs the Jews were commanded when they came into the land of Eretz Yisrael. One, lahamid la'melech, one is to make a king. Two, lahachri zaras al-molek, to destroy Amalek. Number three, v'linus lam beis ha'bechir, and to create and to build the Beis Hamikdash. So Rabbi Yehuda is saying that it is clearly a mitzvah of the Torah. And since it's clearly a mitzvah of the Torah, as we'll see in a minute, therefore he's allowed to, Shmuel was trying to scare the people so that they perform the mitzvah properly of putting a king over them and to have his fear be upon them. Third opinion, Rab Nurai Omer, Lo Nemra Parshasu Elo Keneget Tarumosam. This Parsha was only written because of the complaining nature of how they wanted to have a king. So, let's take a look in footnote Yud Dalet. I circled it on the lower right-hand side. It's a nice way of looking at this. He says, first of all, he says, Hanira Leimer Shadas Rabbi Yehuda he came. This is the first opinion. Well, we're on, Rabbi Yehuda. The first opinion is Rabbi Yossi. He says, yeah, that's the mitzvah. Whatever it says, that surely as a king is allowed to do. That's number one. The second opinion, the one we're going to focus on, is Rabbi Yehuda. And here, Leimer Shadas Rabbi Yehuda he came. The opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, it appears, is Shema She'omer Shmuel Yisrael Mishpat HaMelech Hadvar Me'elu Nemar Rak Yisrael B'Vad. Maybe you could say that which Shmuel told the Jews, the rules of the king, these words were said only to the Jews alone. What does that mean? So that the fear of the king should be upon them. And no one will just do what they want. No commoner will just do what he wants. In other words, it's a scare tactic so that Jews will be quite afraid. I better watch what I say when I'm in front of the king, because if he doesn't like me, he'll do something that's going to be really bad for me. But that parsha was only said to the Jews. But the king on his own, he needs to know, he's not allowed to do what it says. And if he does this, he'll get punished for this. So the second opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, this whole thing that Shmuel HaMelech said was only to scare the people so that they would really have respect for the king. But indeed, the king is not allowed to do any of these things. It's a major machlokes. The first opinion says, no, that's what he's allowed to do. He's allowed to do. The second opinion is saying, no, he's not allowed to do it at all. So why did Shmuel say it? Only to scare the Jews, that they would have reverence for him. And now with this, he explains the psukim very nicely. Next column. He's bringing down from a sefer called Even Yisrael. It's explained the psukim in this parsha. One can raise a question on Mashiesh Shinuyim Rabim Baksum Shel Parshas. There's all kinds of subtle differences in the texts in these psukim. The Jewish people, when they came to Shmuel, they said, Sima lanu melech l'shavteinu. Place for us a king to judge us. And then Shmuel's response was, Vayera hadavar b'nei Yisrael kasher amru tana lanu melech l'shavteinu. And it was bad in Shmuel's eyes, that which the Jewish people say, give to us. And I've underlined the word lanu twice. Then, Vayomer Hashem l'Shmuel, Hashem says Shmuel, Acha'ei ta'id b'hem v'gat l'hem mishpat al-melech, but you shall surely warn them about the laws of the king, asher yimloch aleihem. They will rule aleihem, upon them. That's a different type of word than the word lanu. Lanu means for us. He should have said not aleihem, he should have said lohem. Lohem, which would be the similar way, lanu, lohem, not aleihem. Al means on top, not for. Vayomru, and they said, and then Shmuel said the whole thing. Vayomru said, lo ki imaloch yimloch aleinu. No, but rather he will rule aleinu, upon us. So those two words are consistent, but not consistent with the first two. Listen to their voice and make lohem for them a melech, which is going back to the way you'd figure it would have been after the first two. In other words, the suffixes, prefixes that determine exactly what is this relationship between the Jews and the king seems to be shifting. Lanu is one type of word. Aleihem and aleinu is a different type, and lahem seems going back to the first time. So that's what he's asked. The changing of the expressions is not easy to understand. Over the verse they say, Lanu hamelech, for us a king. Hashem amer hamelech asher timloch aleihem. King will rule over them. Chazer v'amer v'imlach to lahem melech. Go back and make king for them. So what's going on? So Be'er Davar Hazeh came. This is the explanation. In Israel, or the Jews, when they first came, they said, Simu lanu melech. They said, make for us a king. V'amru sima al oleinu. They didn't say, make a king over us. Just lanu, for us. Ki pirish lanu. Lanu means, she'il b'shavim anu. He should be equal to us. V'shimashech achareinu v'acharetzenu. And he should follow what our advice is. That's democracy. Democratically elected king. Okay, that's what they said. We want to have someone who's just like us who's going to be the king. V'zeh lo hayatov mitzad Yisrael. That's not good for the Jews. Ki os lo yeh emas hamelech lem. Then there won't be any fear on the king. V'yishkol hayosher be'einav hayosef. And then anybody will do whatever they want. So we want a king who's just like us, but we're going to boss him around. Therefore it says, Vayera hadavar b'nei Hashem kasher amru. It was bad in God's eyes and in Shmuel's eyes when they said, give lanu, for us a king, they'll be equal to us, that we'll boss around. So therefore Hashem responded to Shmuel, listen to the Jews in terms of appointing a king. But you got to understand through your words, when you explain it to them, they will understand that not the way they thought, that they're going to be equal to the king. But rather the law is he will rule over you. Aleihem, over them, dafka, that he will rule over them. And not as an equal. That is the change, aleihem, as opposed to lohem. And then they agreed afterwards. Yes, he will rule over us. Right? So in other words, so they agreed, okay, it's not just an equal king, he's going to be the boss. And look what he has powers. And they agreed, they said, okay, Hashem says it's not good for us to be equal, and we have to be the boss. And he has to be the boss. Okay, we'll let him be the boss. But Hashem said it to the Jews, just as they should be afraid of the king, but not that those really are the laws. Because not that those are really the laws, but he says that's what he's going to do, because he's got the right to do all that. But for the king himself, right? That's the last one. When Hashem says to Shmuel, listen to the voice and appoint for them a king. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shomer lo Shmuel, shehu yeh sholem. When you appoint a king and you go to the king, tell the king that he's equal to them. V'lo yisar lem, that he shouldn't lord over them. Kim yisa, but rather he has to carry the yoke of the congregation. And therefore it says after, v'himlach lohem melech, means Melech lo yeh bechinas aleim kim bechinas lehem. He should only be the aspect of lohem, for them and not over them. So it comes out this kind of middle ground opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is that Jews were wrong that they want to have a king they could boss over. B, you need to have some kind of way that people should have a tremendous fear for the king, that the king has in the eyes of the Jews the ability to do whatever he wants. But C, that the king should really never ever do those things. Now, obviously, there will be times where the king will have to take emergency measures. And when he has the right to take an emergency measure, if he would feel that the Jews are not respecting the office of the king, then he has still within his ability to do that. But primarily it was just to scare the kings. And even if you said at the first opinion that that's what he can do, I don't know if it's such a big Michalowicz. In other words, yeah, he can if there's no other way to have fear upon the people, and if he's doing it only that they should be afraid of him, then maybe that would be permitted as well. So that's a nice way of going through the psukim and seeing exactly what the king can do. And you'll see it's interesting that when he says you've got to be equal to the people, so there's a fine line that the king has to tread. The tread has to be the boss over them on the one hand. They have to listen to him. They have to, the people have to respect him and not treat him like an equal. Well, the king has to treat the Jews, as he, from his perspective, he feels he's the equal, but yet they have to fear him. So it's a very difficult task for the king to do. How do you do it? How do you treat them like equals, and that they're going to be afraid of you? If you're not going to do all these things, so that's that fine, most difficult line that the king, on the one hand, has to feel he's a servant of the king. He's doing everything for the people, and it's not that that's according to his whims. On the other hand, they have to have a tremendous fear for him of what he represents as an Eved who serves Hashem. They have to be like Avodim who serve Hashem, and there's always that ability for the king to enforce law. So it's a difficult balance that the king has to have, and it's something that, as we said, should never have been. But if you already have it, you're going to see what kind of difficult tightrope you have to walk, as we're now going to be introduced to Shul, who indeed fails in walking that tightrope because of that. Yeah.
This concept of the Jewish people fearing the king, they didn't have this concept with the Novi. They didn't have to fear the prophets. The prophets nobody asked them to fear the prophets, and they got along quite well with them. So why suddenly this concept of fearing?
First of all, who said they got along quite?
Well, they followed them what they said most of the time, and they did.
First of all, who were all the Navis that they had so far? How many Navis did they have from Yeshua till Shmuel?
4 or 5?
I don't know many. Not a lot.
But anyway, there was no concept of fearing them. So this is a new concept we're coming in with. You got to fear the king.
Okay, again, this is something that Hashem wasn't happy. If you're going to have a king who's not a prophet, there's got to be a concept of fearing the king.
Why the difference? Why suddenly this shift?
Because the Jews want to have a buffer between them and Hashem. And if you're going to create a buffer between you and Hashem, then what's going to keep you guys in line, if not the king who's enforcing it, that you have to have fear of him. If you feel very close to Hashem, you don't need to fear. That's what Shmuel was so upset about. He's saying, you got me, you got the Navi. We're able to be a functioning country and feel close to Hashem. That's what we said last week. And the verse would say that the fact they wanted a king meant they wanted a buffer, but they wanted a distance between themselves and Hashem. If you already want to have a distance between you and Hashem, that means the relationship isn't so great. So the only way the Jews are going to stay in line now is there's got to be some method of them having fear for the king.
But this instruction by Hashem to do have a king when you enter Eretz Yisrael.
Again, I'm not going over what we did last week.
I know. Exactly.
It wasn't. It's like a divorce. It's not something that you want.
Why did Hashem went along with that? Why did they say no?
You don't have a choice because if they're rejecting Hashem, they're rejecting the Navi. There's got to be something in place, or there's going to be total chaos. It's going to be total chaos.
They rejected the Novi because Shmuel was getting old and the alternatives weren't too good. It wasn't because they...
No, as we said, they should have said, you stay as the Navi, go find us another Navi. They weren't asking for that. They weren't asking for that. There was...
Well, his sons were taking over and they were no good,
so we said last week, they should have said, just you continue to rule, we'll do the old system, we have Bitachon and Hashem, and we'll wait for further orders from the Navi.
Okay, so because...
If that's somebody, if you really believe the Navi, you'd wait for the Navi to solve your problems. You know, so that this was not a good, this was a turning point, a negative turning point in the history of the Jews. So Hashem says, it's a negative turning point, so this is what it'll be. It was not a l'chatchila situation. Okay, let's continue now. Perek Tes, Pasuk Aleph. Okay, now it's time to introduce our new character. Vayihi Ish. Now look, there's a Kri Uksiv. It's written one way and it's written another way. It's written and read another way. It's read Mi Binyamin, from Binyamin. But in the Navi itself, in the scroll, it's two words. Mi Ben Yamin. Mi Ben Yamin. So, even before we go on, what is that supposed to mean? So, the Radak says, doesn't really mean much at all. He says, King Ksiv B'Shtei Milos, it's written with two words, right? For Kri Binyamin Milachas, and it's read as one word, Binyamin, V'Yinechad, it's one concept that really doesn't make much of a difference. Reb Tzadok, on the other hand, he says, no, the Navi is saying something very important. By dividing it up into two words, Ben and Yamin, Yamin means the right hand. He was Mi Ben Yamin. Like, you know, he was a person who, just like you have the idea of Ben Torah, Ben Olam Haba, he's a Ben Yamin. Ben Yamin is, he totally relates to the concept of Yamin. And Yamin means Chesed. And as the Reb Tzadok says in other places, he says that the Torah is telling us right now what the downfall of Shaul HaMelech is going to be. He related too much to the aspect of Chesed. Not to say that he shouldn't have Chesed, but it was a Ben Yamin. He was way too imbalanced on the side of Yamin, on the side of the right side. And Reb Tzadok says in his character analysis of Shaul, he says ultimately Shaul was punished by Hashem because he was Chazal say this part, as he was merciful on the cruel people. As he did not, when you'll see later, the attack on Amalek, and he was supposed to kill everyone out, he did not kill Agag. Did not kill Agag because there was too much Yamin, too much Chesed, and a king, as Rav Tzadok says, must Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz. The king with justice keeps the world going. King has to be strong and has to administer justice as required. As he contrasts him to David, who David was called an Admoni. He was red, fiery. He had strict rules. He knew how to be a king. He knew how to punish when you had to punish, right? You might think he went wild with that, but he still. Navi says he was Yafei Naim. He had nice eyes. Meaning to say, Chazal say he only acted according to where the eyes told him, the eyes that followed what the Sanhedrin told him to do, to follow the laws of the Torah. So he was filled with love for Jews because he listened to what the Sanhedrin said, but only hated the enemies of Hashem. And that's that balance that we're talking about. That the king can't be too soft. People have to be able to fear him, although he loves them and he's a loyal servant to them, as David HaMelech was. Shaul, we're beginning to see the problem right away, is that he's too much Yamin. It's like the introduction. The first words, know who he is, and you're going to see is going to be the ultimate downfall of who he is. And that was his test. That even though he was so strong on the Yamin, could he still have the ability to show the Gvura when it was necessary? And that's the kind of king we had in Shaul, and that was the test that he failed ultimately down the line. Now the Malbim explains that he's saying in this pasuk is describing one of the reasons why he was selected as a king, and pasuk Beis will give us another reason why he was selected as a king. So this pasuk, as we'll continue reading the pasuk now, says he was. Now we're not talking about, by the way, Shaul yet. There was a man from Benjamin, Ushmo Kish. His name was Kish, Ben Aviel, the son of Aviel, Ben Tzoror, the son of Tzoror, Ben Bechoras, the son of Bechoras, Ben Afiach, the son of Afiach, Ben Ish Shemini, the son of the man of the right side, that's Binyamin, Gibor Chayil, a warrior, valiant warrior. Okay. And not necessarily Binyamin, according to Metzudas, Ben Ish Shemini means a very important person from the tribe of Binyamin. But he is a direct descendant from Binyamin, obviously he's in Shevet Binyamin. So the Malbim explains like this, that this pasuk is describing the yichus, the pedigree of Shul. And his yichus is unbelievable. His father is Kish ben Aviel. Now it's interesting, if you look in Divrei Hayamim, which the book of Chronicles, when it goes through the lineage of people, it says that it implies that the father of Kish is not Aviel, but the father's name is Ner. Ner, Nun Resh, is the grandfather of Shaul HaMelech. And why was he called Ner? Because, he's called Aviel. So the answer is that indeed his name was Aviel, but everybody called him Ner. Why do they call him Ner? Because he lit candles for the masses. In other words, he's a person who is dedicated to doing kindness to people. It says he lit candles in dark alleyways and dark roads, and this would be a sign of his midos. And obviously, I'm sure it was more than just that. He probably illuminated people to Torah and things like that. So in other words, he was a person that had a lot of chesed, good chesed in terms of his grandfather. And as well, it says about Kish himself, his father was a Gibor Chayil, a warrior. He had the attribute of Gvura. So really, his lineage was perfect for being a king, because on the one hand, there was chesed in his family, there's also Gvur in his family. And even though his father was a Benjamin, but still his father was a Gibor Chayil. So the lineage was a good lineage of what he had. However, we'll see Shaul's test was that he was not balanced in terms of the midos, which he would ultimately fail. But in terms of the yichus coming in, you had the right guy. That's on the one hand. Now we'll look at pasuk Beis, and now we're going to talk about Shaul himself. Talo Hayabed, and Kish had a son, Ushmo Shaul. His name is Shaul. And again, you're going to see the constant connection. Shaul is the same letters except for one letter as Shmuel. And really, when you remember back when Shmuel got his name, it's because it was from the root of Shaul. He was the one that she asked from Hashem to have. So there's a constant intertwining of Shmuel and Shaul throughout this story here. Okay, he's a Bachur Vatov. He's a Bachur Vatov. What does it mean, Bachur Vatov? So Metzudas learns Bachur means he's Bachur, he's outstanding in his actions. Vatov meaning V'yafamar, he's a very, very handsome fellow. There was nobody as handsome and as good as he was. From a shoulder and beyond, he was higher than everybody else. Simple meaning of the pasuk means he was physically taller than anybody. It was like a basketball player. Everybody came up to his shoulders. And then from the shoulder and beyond, he was higher than everybody else. The Malbim, of course, learns it a little bit deeper, saying that he himself had outstanding qualities. Number one, he translates Bachur Vatov, meaning to say that even though he was a Bachur, meaning young in years, right? And when you're young in years, your blood isn't so settled yet. You still got a lot of wild oats. But, and in other words, he had fire and passion. But still in all, he was Tov. He was Tov to Hashem. He was Tov to others. He didn't go after his taivas, right? To the point that there was nobody like him. Nobody from Ish, Mi B'nai Yisrael, even the elders. There was nobody Tov Mimenu. No one better than him in Midos. He had the best characteristics. And also, so not only was he an unbelievably well-developed spiritual person, but as well another important factor for a king is that he had a tremendous beauty, which unfortunately is something that people respect. And not that we respect it naturally, but again, it's the idea if this is a representative of God, in all ways he has to look well without anyone having any place to make critical comments. Not that you elect someone who is, you don't pick a king based on his beauty, but Hashem wanted the first king to be like in every way amazing. In every way amazing. So therefore it says, Mishichma v'malaka v'mikolam. He's head and shoulders beyond everybody else. He was unique in his strength, physical strength. Must have been very physically strong, and he was strong in his midos. And this would be based on his lineage and based on who he was. That he's got to pick a king now. So everyone's there's got to be it's good to have certain approval ratings, even though we don't care about people's approval. But you got to give them a good first king, as we will see when Shmuel will present Shaul as the king. They like the choice. So they got. You don't want to give him commands to the first king. He gives him a guy that most of them don't like. Well, he's a king. He said, "What kind? You didn't ask for this." No, I'm going to give you exactly what you wanted. Exactly. You're going to have no criticism of this guy. He comes from a good family on both sides. It's amazing. He has all the qualities. They know he's a tzaddik. He's strong. He's handsome. Who can criticize? It's the best one you have. And you'll see what terrible failure comes from this first king. Right away, give you a taste. And maybe it wouldn't have been such a bad idea that maybe they should have backtracked once they saw the lack of nachas from the best guy you could get. But that's the description of who he was and how he came into play. Pasuk Gimel. The next number of psukim, the Malbim says, shows Hashem's hashgacha pratis, his divine supervision in terms of bringing Shaul to Shmuel HaMelech. And sometimes with very unusual, mundane stories, this Hashem brings things into play. So, Gimel, Vatovadna hasonos lekish avi Shaul. So the father of Shaul, Kish, he lost some female donkeys. Vayomer Kish el Shaul, and Kish says to Shaul, Beno his son, Kach na itcha es achad me'anorim, take with you one of the lads, one of the servants, V'kum lech bakesh es hasonos. So go, get up, and search out for these female donkeys. So the Malbim, in every pasuk, he shows another aspect of hashgacha pratis. This is the last pasuk we'll do for today. That end early today. So he says, number one, that I don't want to get so much into grammar here, but it says ne'evdu hasonos lekish. It should have said mekish. Something that doesn't get lost to somebody, gets lost from somebody. So Malbim explains that it only appeared to his father they were lost. They really weren't lost. It wasn't lost. The father just didn't remember where he put them. Sometimes you lose something because you put it in a good place that you won't lose them. So that's what the father did. They never were lost, but they appeared to be lost. So now that they appeared to be lost, now the father has to send them away. But really they were never lost to begin with. A. B. Usually who would the father ask to go search after a lost female donkey?
The servant.
The servants. You don't ask the son. So again, that was the most unusual thing, because Hashem wants Shaul to meet Shmuel, who was far away. So Hashem has to make things happen in a way that Shaul will meet the king before the king will meet him. As we'll see why. And this is the first step. And there's many more steps to go. Just have to stop today.